All right. Morning, afternoon. This time we're going to call the City of Woodcreek Board of Adjustments to order. We'll rise for the pledges. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. The city secretary call the roll, please.
Mayor Jeff Rasco,
Present.
Councilmember Judy Brizendine,
Here.
Councilmember Deborah Hines,
Here.
Councilmember Aurora LeBrun,
Here.
Councilmember Brent Pulley.
Here. So all present and accounted for.
Yeah, Can I make a correction? I'm sorry, Linda,
I'm sorry.
but it's Board of Adjustment
Oh.
member.
You're right. You are right. Let me
Yeah.
read it again.
Board
Yes,
of
please.
Adjustment member.
Yes, okay. Sorry. So they all would be.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, Board of Adjustment member Jeff Rasco,
Here.
Board of Adjustment member Judy Brizendine,
Here.
Board of Adjustment member Deborah Hines,
Here.
Board of Adjustment member Aurora LeBrun,
Here.
Board of Adjustment member Brent Pulley.
Here.
Thank you. My apologies.
Thank you, Ms. Secretary. So on our regular agenda, the first item on the regular agenda today is the City of Woodcreek has received an application from Ms. Barbara Ray Widener of 185 Augusta Drive, Woodcreek, Texas, for a variance to ordinance number 156.057A of the Woodcreek Code of Ordinances, which states no rear fence, wall, or hedge, and no side fence, wall, or hedge located between the side building line and the interior lot line, or located on the interior lot line, shall be more than 6 feet high. The variance is to request a fence that will be no more than 6 feet high. Did we get a briefing?
Yes.
City manager?
In your packet, you have all the documentation regarding this variance request. As you note, let me flip through here. On the actual application, that it's on page 9, sorry. It states that the purpose of the building permit is to ensure compliance with all the city's zoning, building, water quality, and flood control provisions of the Code of Ordinances. And so therefore the application was submitted. The original application replaced an existing fence, same footprint, except remain within the lot lines on the east side as noted on the revised survey. The fence that was constructed exceeds either the 6 or the 8 foot because of how it was constructed. It also does not meet the good neighbor fence requirements that are in the code. So the applicant is appealing to this board to reverse the decision of the staff to have the actual fence remain as constructed.
Thank you. Ms. Widener, would you like to make a presentation to the Board of Adjustments?
Yeah,
Mr. Klein, thank you. Just speak into the microphone if you would, please.
I'm Bill Klein. This is Widener's attorney and friend. And she will make a presentation shortly, but I just wanted to point out to you that in the original application, Mrs. Widener attached a copy of her builder's bid, stated that she intended to build an 8-foot fence, which would replace the original 8-foot fence. And that application was approved. And so that's the fence that she built. During construction, the construction didn't go as quickly as planned, so she had to apply for an extension, and that extension was also approved, and the fence was partially built at that time, and no one ever pointed out to her that it should have been a 6-foot fence, and so she completed the construction. I will also point out that Ms. Widener originally requested a variance for the provision that requires that the facing of the fence, the boards be on the outside of the fence rather than on the inside. And that is your ordinance. And she originally asked for a variance there, but she has related on that particular aspect and is not asking for that. So she intends to put the sheathing, another layer of sheathing on the outside of the fence so that it will comply with that portion of the ordinance. And you're probably going to look, you've probably seen your packet. I don't know whether it's in the packet, but her neighbors on either side have also signed a letter or sent an email to the city, I believe, saying that they have no objection to this fence as built. So now I'll turn it over to Ms. Widener and let her explain in more detail.
Thank you, Mr. Klein.
Good afternoon. My name is Barbara Ray Widener. I go by Ray, my middle name. I've been at this home now for 15 years, and the fence in question was there when we bought the house, my husband and I. He's since passed away. Okay. Okay. All right. Closer. Okay. So anyway, it was the old fence, an 8-foot fence, and it faced, the construction faced on the outside. So the inside was the finished fence. That was the way it was when we bought the house. And that's what I requested the contractor to do, to replace it as it had been that way. So I applied, went through the protocol, and submitted my permit with my check and the contractor's specs stating that it would be a new 8-foot board-on-board cedar fence. The other details were about putting a concrete base under the fence to prevent my dog from digging out, because he had done that earlier. And also to prevent water from coming into my yard off of Jacobs Well Road. Whenever we have a heavy rain, the water comes down from Mountain Creek down Jacobs Well and would go under my fence and wash through my yard out to the gate. So that seems to be working. After the last rain, I didn't have water flowing through my yard. So that changed some of the fence height, evidently, which I was unaware of, because I just said, well, I want the concrete. It's going to be an 8-foot fence. So then the 8-foot went up from the concrete, I guess. I'm not positive. So that was in my permit, in my application, was his all his specs for the job. And the only thing I had to do was to resubmit my survey showing that the fence would not cross the lot line. When we bought the house, the fence was already there and it was crossed over into my neighbor's yard. So we revised the fence line on that east side so it wouldn't be in my neighbor's yard. So after that was received by the city and they gave me a building permit. Okay. So I posted that. And as we went along, the weather interfered, and so he was not able to complete the job in 30 days. So we applied for a 30-day extension to finish the job, which I received, showing that the city approved of the 8-foot fence. and also of the delay. So after that, well, how long did it take? I don't know. Sometime in June, before the fence was totally finished. And then I received a letter from the city saying that it was an illegal fence because of the fact that it was constructed so that the construction faced the street and should have been facing the house. That was what the letter said. And so I needed to correct that. So the building inspector came out and we looked at the fence and discussed how that could be dealt with. And I said, I would cover those parts of the fence. There were like 4 sections that faced the street, Augusta Drive and La Roca, and that I would cover those so that that construction was not visible. But in the process, it occurred to me to say that it was an 8-foot fence, and the inspector was unaware of that. So he went back to the city hall, and then representatives came out to the house to look at the fence and observe that, yes, indeed, it was an 8-foot fence. So then I was told that in order to comply, I needed either to pay fines or reconstruct or apply for a variance. So I chose to apply for the variance, and based on the fact that I had been approved twice by City Hall, and didn't realize that I was not in compliance. So that's why I'm here today. And I appreciate your time in looking at this situation, and would ask that the 8-foot fence be allowed to remain as it is. I will comply with getting the construction side of the fence covered up on the areas that are visible from the street. I back up to Jacobs Well Road. You cannot see anything off Jacobs Well Road right there. Are there any questions?
Thank you. We'll have this discussion briefly. In a little while, we're going to have a public hearing and allow any comments from the audience.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Widener. 113, call the Board of Adjustments into a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak for or against the application, you may do so at this time. We do have letters on the desk updated from Mayor Eskeland and from Mary Jo Saunders' neighbors that are in the record. So hearing no comment, we adjourned the public hearing at 1:13, and again, deliberation and action on the request.
Read a motion.
We need a motion to approve, yes.
That we approve the variance.
All right, we have a motion to approve the variance.
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Pulley. Discussion?
I like to just, I went through the packet, and I do understand that our ordinances say 6 feet, but her application clearly stated that she was replacing an 8-foot fence with an 8-foot fence. We approved it. So if anybody is in error, it's us rather than the citizens. So on that basis, I move that we approve it. That's the reason of my motion.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I have a couple of comments. One is I agree with Aurora that there's some culpability on the part of the staff for not catching the 8-foot, as well as our inspector for not catching that. However, when I read over this, it says, the contractor says footings. Footings are not a 2-foot high brick or concrete wall, which does elevate that fence to 10 feet. I think the Board of Adjustment's job here is to look at all of the facts and try to come to a compromise. I realize that the concrete below the fence is good for the flooding. I also realize that the 8 foot on the back of the property should probably be allowed, as if nothing else, a noise factor on Jacobs Well Road, as well as maybe around that corner where it's 8 foot. However, I feel like that there needs to be some compliance on the part of her as well, because she was given in the application a copy of the ordinance. So she did have access to seeing that a 6 foot was the height. And I'm hoping that that went to her contractor as well. So I think what we need to do is figure out how we can meet in the middle. And especially since she's already been out $1,000 to bring it in for a variance, or $500 to bring it in before the Board of Adjustment. Because our job as Board of Adjustment is see how we can adjust the situation to make everybody be happy with it.
Councilmember Pulley.
My mic's way over here, so I hope you can hear me. I kind of agree with Aurora. She submitted the plans, we approved the plans, and we granted a permit, and I think that we need to stand by that. So I'm in favor of the motion.
Councilmember Hines.
I think it should be noted that nobody's speaking against this and that both neighbors directly impacted by the fence are fine with it as it stands and the construction's completed. I think we would create undue or unnecessary costs asking her to alter any further as it stands. I do understand that it might be 10 foot now, and that's a pretty tall fence, but if nobody's complaining,
It's 10 feet only on the back, right?
only
No.
on the back. Well,
Which is Jacob's
It
Well.
ranges from 8 foot to 10 foot all the way around. It just depends on what part of the footing you're on.
Well, my-
8 foot to 10 foot from what? The concrete or the grade?
If the fence itself is 8 foot above the footing. So it depends on where it's sitting on the footing as to what the height of the fence is.
So you're talking about at times it goes 10 foot above grade, but not 10 foot above the footing.
Mm-mm.
Right.
Okay.
This is only future relevant, but one of the things that I've been thinking and have been discussing, really as a result of this particular case, is the need to look at this ordinance specifically as it applies to homes that back up to the county road or the state highway.
Mhm.
So, I mean, if you're on Champion Circle and back up to 12, I'd build a 14-foot fence. And I think we can look at that in the future. I know it doesn't apply now, but as far as it goes, as far as Ms. Widenor's fence, it's to be considered the location. She does get it from both directions, people coming in on La Roca from Jacobs Well, and also rain coming down on the other side. So it's a situation that needs to be looked at. I think to your comments, Councilmember Brisnine, that the compromise I think we're looking for, she's spoken to, at least it's in some part, as far as resurfacing, facing the construction or the outside of the fence to comply to the friendly fence requirements. So I think that should be taken into consideration. I don't know if it's feasible to lop off, a couple of inches up front, to bring it into compliance. I think it might be asking a little bit too much, but I think we're in the spirit of the variance request to act on it.
Actually,
Mr. Mayor, if I might, without taking a position one way or the other, because that's not my job. So the council is aware of this, and I'll pass around this case. It does not substantively address the issue at hand, but what it does, when you get it, you look at the second page and see the portion that's highlighted. It stands for the proposition that the issuance of a permit or the issuance of a permit in error does not entitle the property owner to a variance. I don't say that because I don't think that the variance at hand should or should not be granted. I just simply want the council to be aware of the fact that if in fact there is a mistake made or a permit is issued in error, that is not determinative of the issue, merely for purposes of if this happens again, but not addressing the issues or the merits of this request today.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Mr. Wyman, would you also, before we go to vote, comment on the information you shared with me on I don't think all of us have been members of a board of adjustment, and that it's a little bit different than a standard council?
So under chapter 211 of the property code, that is the origin of the authority for a board of adjustments. And under chapter 211 of the local government code, a city may adopt or appoint its governing body as the board of adjustments. Under chapter 30 of Woodcreek's Code of Ordinances, it did elect to appoint its governing body as the board of adjustments. The governing body as defined by the local government code is the 5 council members and the mayor, 6 individuals, although we are presently lacking 1. Under section 211.009, and I've highlighted that for you as well. You can take a look at the second page. It states that the concurring vote of 75% of the members of the Board of Adjustments is necessary to reverse an order, requirement, decision, or determination of an administrative official, decide in favor of an applicant on a matter on which the Board of Adjustments is required to pass under a zoning ordinance, or authorize a variation from the terms of a zoning ordinance. So when we look at that 75% threshold, it's much like the heightened requirement for attendance at a special meeting. The governing body is made up of 6 individuals, even though 1 spot is presently vacant. The only way to get a 75% vote is for 5 of the 6 members of the governing body to vote in favor of a particular course of action, which today would mean that this board would need to vote unanimously.
But I'm going
Now-
to disagree with that, man. I mean, the
Well,
mayor
the-
doesn't.
Hold
vote.
it, but
Hold
No,
hold
no.
on. I have a question.
Real quick, if I
Okay,
can
just
finish.
finish.
Yes, under Woodcreek's Code of Ordinances,
Okay, that's.
it says 75% of those present and voting.
That's right.
However, the authority for the Board of Adjustments derives from the local government code, and our ordinance needs to be in compliance with the local government code. By setting a lesser standard, I think that we are running afoul of the law, which, as a Class A general law municipality, we're required to operate in accordance with the general laws of the state of Texas. And again, the strict language of section 211.009 is that the concurring vote, 75% of the members of the board, is necessary. It's in line with that shall, may language. I do believe that deviation from that 75% standard of the entire Board of Adjustments by our city's code of ordinances is an inappropriate deviation, this council certainly retains the discretion to act in spite of my advice. All that I'm saying is this is what Chapter 211 of the Local Government Code provides. And if you will look at our Code of Ordinances, Chapter 30, Chapter 156, the Board of Adjustments acts on the authority of Chapter 211 of the Local Government Code.
Councilmember
Well,
Olbermann.
I was going that was going to be my comment, that our ordinances clearly state that 5 members of the board must be present for the board to hold a hearing or to hold a meeting. So, and in the past, that's the rule that we have followed. And in the past, that's how we've made decisions to grant or deny. I guess in the past, we were not warned that we were in non-compliance with the code. Is this the right time for us to come into compliance, or should it be for future?
I mean, I think it is always good to be in compliance. I think that a minor adjustment to the city's code of ordinances regarding the Board of Adjustments is probably appropriate, so that we are directly in line with the requirements of Chapter 211 of the Local Government Code. And Brent, did you have a question?
Yeah, I guess, first of all, I'm comfortable with our ordinance. I think Wimberley handles it the same way. It may be in conflict with this, but I'm comfortable with that. And I think we have the discretion to make our decision on a majority basis. And let me finish.
Yeah.
I don't know what the remedy would be. He's going to complain about it.
I think you make some very appropriate points, in which is why I said this board retains the authority to act in spite of my advice.
Correct. Let me finish. I also think counting the mayor as a vote, thus requiring a unanimous vote, that doesn't make any sense because he normally doesn't vote. I think you would need 3/4 of those who are voting, and that would be what? There's going to be 4 people voting, so that would be 3 votes.
The
worst.
The reason that I would give you some degree of pushback on that is if you look at, and I'll pull this up. If you look at section 211.008 of the Local Government Code, it says the governing body of a type A general law municipality may by ordinance grant the members of the governing body the authority to act as the Board of Adjustment. In Chapter 30 of Woodcreek's Code of Ordinances, this governing body has been granted the authority to act as the Board of Adjustments. Furthermore, under Chapter 22 of the Local Government Code, the governing body is defined as the mayor and all 5 aldermen. So, Councilmember Pulley, I agree that in the vast majority of occasions, you are in fact correct, and that is the mayor does not vote. However, there are certain carve-outs under the law where the mayor is allowed to vote, and based on the fact that the governing body entirely has been appointed as the Board of Adjustments, I do believe that vests authority in the mayor to vote.
So, but if he votes, then she only needs 75% of all of our votes, which doesn't require unanimous vote then, right?
It would require a 75% vote of the governing body.
But there's nobody here.
I understand it's a cluster.
That's nonsensical, man.
It would take all of us today to agree, and then it would pass.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Can I,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not really clear on the procedure here, but could we ask Barbara another question if we needed? Because I see in this code, it says if The financial cost of compliance is greater than 50% of the appraised value of the structure as shown on the most recent appraisal roll certified to the assessor from the, goes on. We could look at the cost of the fence, and if she's received any sort of quote on the cost of bringing it up to code, if it's significant, then that's definitely another reason to go ahead and apply let her have the variance, because the cost to comply would be more than the fence is worth,
What?
or over half.
I can tell you from personal experience that I have a fence, and when I built my fence on the golf course, the fence had to be 25 feet in. When the rule changed, I had to rebuild the fence, and the cost of pulling and I don't have a privacy fence, but the cost of pulling the stakes and moving the fence was about 75 to 80% of the original cost of the
Right.
fence. I'm telling you, it's particularly if there's the poster in concrete. And to this day, I still have showed the damage where
Yeah,
things were pulled.
because you can't, I guess you could just get a sawzall, draw a line and walk it down, but you're looking at potentially pulling every board, remeasuring and replacing them.
I've got a suggestion, and I might need to think it through, but we could temporarily adjourn this meeting and re-adjourn following appointment of the 5th alderman, to ensure that there is a full governing body to vote.
Well, then what votes would she need then if we have the new member?
5 of 6.
5.
5 of 6.
But again, he's not voting.
Yeah, I mean, we can do, I think he can.
I think that's a ridiculous construction, that she has to account for a vote that's never going to vote unless there's a tie.
But
We can walk through it if you
yeah,
want to.
we've
I'm
gone
happy.
through this before with the PDD, where the governing
That's
body
nuts
was
too. I mean,
the
that's a
6th.
completely wrong interpretation.
Could I ask a couple of questions?
Sure, step to the podium, please, Mr. Klein.
As I understand it, the reason
You gotta use the mic.
there's a vacancy in the council,
Yes, sir.
so the council only now consists of 5 people.
4, including the mayor.
1, 2, 3,
Right, right.
5, including the mayor.
Yeah, there's 4 of us that's going to vote, and then the mayor.
Okay, so there's 5 total.
Right.
Okay.
We need,
So but the point I was going to make is that if the council itself has got a vacancy, then the Board of Adjustment can only be members of the council, and there's only 5. So you've got a full Board of Adjustment now, because it's the councilmen that are actually in office. So 4 out of 5 is
Yeah.
over 75%.
Again, so someone could make that argument and make it with a straight. Yeah, and again, I have said multiple times today, the council can act in spite of what I've said. I'm giving the most conservative advice there is.
I agree with Joe.
Board of Adjustments, yes.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm hearing conflicts here that Brent's saying that the mayor does not vote in the Board of Adjustments. Is
It
that
does.
correct?
So again, what
it's in
here
chapter 30.
here is what I'm reading this directly from section 211. Brent, you want to come take a look at this?
I'm hearing you. I just got to get some water.
Okay, I'm looking at section 211.008 of the local government code. It says the governing body of a type A general law municipality may by ordinance grant the members of the governing body the authority to act as a board of adjustments under this chapter. The governing body under the local government code is defined as 5 council members and 1 mayor.
Yep.
What that means is if the authority is vested in the governing body to act as the Board of Adjustments.
Yep.
There's not an exclusion of the mayor. That entitles the mayor, in my opinion, to a vote.
That's what I thought you were saying.
Yes.
But Brent saying he doesn't have a vote.
He doesn't have a vote unless there's a tie.
No.
He doesn't, he has
That
to
has
vote.
a council.
Okay.
Generally, under Texas law, yes.
May I,
You do vote.
please?
Yeah.
30
Governing
point-
body, yeah.
Hello. May I please? 30.58, members of the board. There is hereby created a Board of Adjustment of 6 members of the governing body of the city. Each of the 6 members shall be entitled to 1 vote
Yep.
in all
Yep.
deliberations of
That's
the
our
board.
Well,
Yep.
I stand corrected, I'm sorry.
Yep.
That is right.
So the mayor has,
So then she would need 75% of 5.
here today.
Or we can wait until we have a 6th member.
I would think that the safest course of action would simply be so there is no question.
May I suggest that we take a vote? We have a motion and a second. Can we call the question?
You certainly
Ms.
may.
Hines?
Well, the arguing point we're making right now is in the Texas code, it doesn't use the word present, and in ours it does. So in the broader scheme of things, if we don't have all the members present, according to the Texas code, then the percentage doesn't shift down.
Correct.
Okay, so that's the issue, is that one word.
Again, I don't agree because that means she's got to account for a vote that's not here. You know, and the way I calculate it, if there's 5 of us, 75% of 5 is 3.75, which rounds up to 4. So she needs 4 out of 5.
Again, I'm not going to lose any sleep either way. All I'm giving is the most conservative advice and the most conservative thing that can be done to ensure that there is in fact no issue if in fact this board approves it, is to get the other council member installed, and then after that happens, briefly recess the council meeting, resume the Board of Adjustments meeting, vote with all with all members present, and then,
I think.
yeah, again, if you want to do the other, I'm not going to lose any sleep.
No, I mean, who's going to say anything about it? If she gets 4 votes, it passes, done, you know? Otherwise, what? I mean, someone's going to come down out of the sky and object to it or something?
It's it seems to me like a fair way to go. I mean, if we just get the council in place, have the full Board of Adjustments in place, that means there's no question about how many people are involved because they're all involved. The only issue is that the new council member won't be up to speed on all the testimony.
I disagree. I think that Mr. Klein is right. As of right now, what's before us, this is our Board of Adjustments.
Correct.
With
I
a
agree.
vacancy. I believe that it needs to be put to a vote, and let's move
I
on.
agree.
Can we,
Yeah. And if
can
she
we
gets
call
4,
for, please call for the
passes.
vote?
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, are we saying that we're voting as a body of 5 or a body of 6?
A body of 5.
Body of 5,
So that means 4 votes.
Yeah.
4 votes.
Well, let's take a,
All right. Does that need to go into the record of the motion?
mhm.
I'm sorry, say that again.
We need to put that in a motion that we're convened as a Board of Adjustments of 5 members and not 6.
Anyway, the record reflects that because roll's been called.
Okay.
All right, so I'll call the question. City Secretary, call the roll.
Board of Adjustment Member Rasco,
Aye.
Board of Adjustment Member Pulley,
Aye.
Board of Adjustment Member LeBrun,
Aye.
Board of Adjustment Member Hines,
Aye.
Board of Adjustment Member Brizendine,
Reluctantly, aye.
So we did all that for nothing.
All right, so the variance passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Do we want to swear in Chris now, or do we want to proceed?
No, we'll proceed. As a Board of Adjustments, we've already set the record. All right, thank you very much, Ms. Widener.
Thank you.
You're free to stay or go. Number 2 on the agenda, the city would,
Okay, just a
I'm
moment.
sorry.
Before she leaves, this vote will cover the variances.
No, she only requested one variance.
She only requested one
She still has not complied with the good neighbor
Okay,
fence.
all right. I've read the packet, 2 variants. Okay, just want to make sure we don't make her come back.
All right.
No, she said she's going to comply on her own
She's
with
gonna
the
go
other.
back. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so item number 2 on the Board of Adjustment agenda, the city of Woodcreek has received an application from Ms. Rochelle Feinstein of 157 Augusta Drive, Woodcreek, Texas, for a variance to 156.030C of the Woodcreek Code of Ordinances, which states the finished side of all fences built to comply with these regulations shall face away from the screened object. The variance is to request a fence that will, in part, be finished side pointing toward the structure. City Manager Lewis?
Sure. We did receive the application for a variance. I believe this is only on the rear lot line. The portion that's being addressed is actually adjacent to the golf course easement that is behind the house. And that to preserve the integrity of the trees and stuff in that area, that they are requesting to have the finished side facing the structure itself.
All right. We have time for presentation by the applicant. Ms. Feinstein?
Hi, nice to meet you. Sorry, the circumstances. So we're new to Woodcreek, my husband and I, but we did get the proper application. And my understanding was any visible parts of the fence needed to be good neighbor. And we have complied with that. There was a 16-foot portion that was done incorrectly that is facing a neighbor, and we fixed it per the inspector's advice. And then the back portion of the fence that's in question faces, I believe, 3 feet of golf course
It'd be
property.
15 foot,
I'm sorry?
15 foot. There's a, do you live on Augusta?
Yes.
Yes, it's a 15-foot easement.
What do you mean 15-foot
That-
easement?
The property between your property line into the next fence over should be 15 foot.
It's 3 feet.
Okay.
Uh,
Maybe
there's
the
a
other property
fe-
built over into the golf course property.
Oh, I apologize. I
Yeah,
can't
that's
speak
okay.
to that.
Yeah.
There's a fence directly behind our back
Mhm,
fence
yeah.
that's the same height, and it's 3 feet away from our
Okay.
fence.
Sounds like they built across property lines.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they're actually Wood Creek
No, they're
anyway.
not.
So that's a totally different issue that I can't really address. But as far as I know, nobody can actually even get back there in that 3 feet because all of the other properties have built over their property lines. So I'm not really sure why we need to flip our fence facing outwards if no one's ever going to see it. So I tried to abide by the laws as I understood it. So I hope that that satisfies everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, I have 143, calling public hearing in this matter. Anyone who wishes to speak for or against the application may do so at this time. And I will close the public hearing at 1:43 and a few seconds. Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Brizendine.
I'd like to make a motion that we grant this variance. I went by and looked at that fence, and nobody will ever see the back of their fence, literally. And it's so hard for a workman to get in there. I believe that it ought to be an automatic grant.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second that.
One second.
Second, Ms. Hines. All right, discussion? There's no discussion. If the city secretary would call for vote, call the vote.
Board of Adjustment Member LeBrun,
Aye.
Board of Adjustment Member Hines,
Aye.
Board of Adjustment Member Brizendine,
Aye.
Board of Adjustment Member Pulley,
Aye.
Board of Adjustment Member Rasco.
Aye. Thank you, everybody. We have unanimous approval of the variance, and there are no further business. I will welcome a meeting to adjourn the Board of Adjustments. We are adjourned.